We've been lied to, my friend. The reason you're not moving forward in life is not because you're not working on yourself. It's because no one told you that there's an invisible machine working against you, and today I help you escape that matrix. Escaping the matrix. You probably heard the term being thrown around on social media for escaping the system of society that keeps you a slave.
Do you ever look around you and just look at the world and feel like, kind of like we're in the Matrix, like there's something missing? If you actually wake up and look around you, you realize you're being destroyed in real time. The idea that government cares about them is a lie. The government is never going to tell you anything that's going to wake you up. The government's going to teach you things that are going to make you subservient and compliant. They're going to tell you all this crap about identifying as a panda and all this other shit is not an accident. When they can convince the average person on the street to pretend that some other person is a panda because they said so, you are fully in the slave mindset.
But did you know that the first important escape is not actually from the matrix outside in the world, but the matrix inside of your head? And the interesting thing about this is that it is a matrix that you created. The matrix that you created seems logical and real to you because the brain gives you thoughts and emotions you react to. You wouldn't react to thoughts that you don't deem as logical. To get your attention and have control to protect you, the brain has to give you thoughts you react to. And those emotions and thoughts are given specifically to you. That's why different people have different thoughts that upset them, or intrusive thoughts, because the brain just gives you what you react to. And you continuously reacting to those patterns makes that reality more potent. And this is why we created our own matrix that now you see as real. The problem is that you then are not reacting to the real world, but a construct. I know this is hard to believe, especially if you are in it, but you are living in a false reality and are interacting with the real reality from the premise of a false reality. You have good intentions, but the software you operate on is all messed up because it's running on a false algorithm. That matrix seems as real as the matrix seemed real to the people in the movie The Matrix. So for most people, it's really hard to get out of it. So I will be your Morpheus in this scenario, and you will be Neo if you don't know the movie Morpheus pulls Neo out of the matrix. What if I told you that there's a video that explains to you how to stop acting on that old matrix or software, and by stop acting on that software, you deactivate it and you leave the matrix? What if I tell you that when you leave the matrix, you will see reality for what it really is? Life is way simpler and you get clarity on what you want and how to get it. Am I telling you that this right here is that video? Yes, I am. But how do you know that this really will show you how to leave the matrix in your head? Because I used to sit exactly where you are, watching countless videos on the internet, looking for the one hidden missing key for success that would make me amazing. But the funny part is that the search was inspired from the matrix in my head. We cannot trust our thought patterns and cannot keep running on the engine of thought to escape the matrix. Remember this, you cannot escape the construct of thoughts on the level of thought or by thinking.
A person who thinks all the time has nothing to think about except thoughts. So, he loses touch with reality and lives in a world of illusions.
I'm going to show you how to change the engine from the thought and emotional addictive engine to a healthier engine. Let me take you on a journey.
It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth.
What truth?
That you are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage. Born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind.
I've been there. I've been you. Watching tens of thousands of videos of Abraham Hicks, Michael Singer, Anthony Robbins, Gary Vee, Marianne Williamson, Byron Katie, Eckhart Tolle, Alan Watts, and many more. Always trying to find the one missing piece. I wish someone came to me back in the day and would have told me what I'm about to tell you.
Do you want to know what it is?
Before we can begin, you have to be willing to grow. So if you take the red pill, you are willing to leave your old familiar patterns behind. We're not gonna leave all of them behind because some of them are healthy. But what you need to leave behind is wanting love for being a victim. You can't have the desire to be a victim, try to get love through identities or mental health diagnosis, and move forward.
You have to understand, most of these people are not ready to be unplugged. And many of them are so inert, so hopelessly dependent on the system that they will fight to protect it.
And secondly, you need to be okay with all emotions. If you're not going to be okay with all emotions that are going to come on your journey, then you will do compulsive behaviors around those emotions, and that will keep you in the matrix. Because being okay with emotions and thoughts, no matter how they feel, is the first step to punch a crack in the matrix. So here's your choice. Take the red pill and come with me into uncertainty. The welcoming of that uncertainty will lead you to freedom. Uncertainty is also the realm that human beings have tried to avoid for centuries with compulsions, religions, and manipulations. Or you take the blue pill, trying to avoid uncertainty, like millions of human beings have done for centuries, by creating countless identities, and with compulsions, religions, victimizations, and manipulations, trying to get control of that uncertainty. This is their life of limitation and emotional addiction. Make your choice. Take the red pill to wake up, or the blue pill to go back to sleep.
After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
You made your choice because you're still here watching. Welcome. You're one of the few people who are not hiding behind identities to boost their ego and make their feelings feel better. Let's go to the first lesson.
Come on. It'll be fun. I promise.
Yeah. Sure. I'll go.
To free your mind, the first thing you have to understand is that letting your life be dictated by feelings and thoughts causes you to be a slave to those feelings and thoughts. Which means you will be a slave to the brain or a slave to the matrix. The more you react to emotions and thoughts, the more your mental health will suffer. As an example, the more you avoid going to social events because you try to avoid the feelings of social anxiety, the more your anxiety will develop, the bigger your anxiety will get. I will explain later in this video why the brain acts that way. The first lesson comes sometimes with a shock to people. They ask me if I mean suppression of emotions by not acting on them. I'm not talking about suppression of emotions, and I'm also not talking about expression of emotions. Both are unhealthy. But there's a middle path that transcends both ways. It's accepting, being okay with all the emotions. The paradox is that with the lesson you learn today, over time, you will have a way healthier relationship with your emotions. But if you're asking relief from your emotions with behavior, you will have an unhealthy relationship with them. Lesson number 2. People who come from trauma look for control and safety. Because people who come from trauma grew up in unstable, scary situations. From that place, the compulsive search for control started. You might be looking for control with your looks, with success, with religion, with a belief, an identity, fame, love, a partner, or a profession. Those are just the different themes you use to gain control. Now ask yourself, the teachings that you are attracted to, what do they promise you? Do they promise you that you can control your reality with thoughts or certain rituals? Is that triggering the child's need for certainty and control? Do you want to believe those teachings? I used to do. And when anyone told me to question those teachings back in the day, I would dig my heels in the ground and fight like a warrior to uphold those beliefs. Oh, how wrong I was. If I knew that trying to gain control with any compulsions would hurt my mental health so much, I would have never touched those teachings. Yes, in the beginning I felt so good, but so does candy. And over time you get diabetes. I wouldn't be so committed to teaching people how detrimental these teachings are to their mental health if I didn't experience firsthand what they did to me. And many people in the OCD world who entered the realm of magical thinking can tell you how detrimental that is in the long term to their productivity and their mental health. It's funny that these teachings advertise a higher consciousness, but in reality, they keep you in the matrix. And I'm not talking about everything. There are spiritual teachings that are wonderful, like meditation and mindfulness. But anything you use to chase control will hurt your mental health. And the paradox is, by chasing control, you will always end up feeling more out of control. The place that your search is coming from is leading you to a never-ending quest, because you are actually using the quest to avoiding doing things that you value. You are using self-help as a shield to avoid start doing the things you want to do, because your brain will keep saying, you're not ready yet. But once you change the source of your actions, your entire world will break apart and a new world will open up. The fake matrix in your head will shatter and you will see the real world.
Every single one of us, to some degree, is an empty vessel. We're all programmed. There's no such thing as escaping the slave mind. You must just, to some degree, understand who is programming you and understand if you really want those characteristics. Most people are repeating opinions, and I'm saying, where did you get that opinion from? They can't remember where they got it from. They don't know who even told them. They don't know why they so fervently believe in it. They're just told, they're programmed. You need to genuinely analyze your brain, defrag every single opinion you strongly have and identify where it came from and if that person has your best interests at heart. And what they're trying to do, especially with young men, is program them, because we're all empty vessels. And what you have to do as an adult, as a parent, is to program your child stronger than all of society. It's not an easy job, because all of society, from the YouTube videos to the TV shows to the school, every single thing is trying to program them in one direction. You have to combat that, and that's not an easy job. And if you just sit there and get lazy about it, you will fucking lose. When Rome was losing, all they did was have endless circuses to keep you distracted from the losing war. The world we live in today, they try very hard to prevent you from creating your reality. You're constantly distracted by everything, and it's hard to focus on nearly anything. And they do that on purpose, because for you to go stand out in the rain and protest, that takes focus. They want you distracted. They want arguments in the household. They want blacks to hate the whites, Republicans to hate Democrats. They want us all arguing with each other, for all of us to hate our neighbor, and us all to be so distracted and selfish and self-absorbed that we can't think beyond ourselves. That's what they're trying to do to us, and it's absolutely and utterly work. There's very few of these people, and look what they've fucking done to the entire world. It's absolutely insane.
The new source. So what is that new source? Well, before I tell you what it is, to understand why the new source is the only thing that's working, we have to understand why your brain doesn't understand the language that most people try to communicate with it. The old source. Let me shock you and tell you something that your old pattern will hate to hear. This video will not change you. See how your brain is saying, but why am I watching this then? The brain cannot be changed by any video or book, just with words. And you know why? Because that is not the language of the brain.
Unfortunately, no one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself.
Isn't that crazy? The global self-help and self-development industry was valued at $41.81 billion in 2021. This self-help industry is promising change and fulfillment. But I'm telling you that the words that are written in those books can't change your patterns. Matter of fact, oftentimes, the more self-help you chase, the less likely you are to change your behavior, because most people are only in the spiritual or self-help industry to make feelings feel better, to create a new identity, or to avoid doing the things that you value, because the brain says, oh, we're doing productive things, we're doing them by reading these teachings and gaining more knowledge. You might ask, but why? I've been learning so much. Why can I not let go of these old programs? Why can my brain not understand? Your brain doesn't understand the information that comes in because your brain has only one language it understands. And that language is action, behavior. Too simple, you might think. Yes, I thought so too, until I tried it, and for the first time in my life, I saw long-lasting changes. Let me explain. You can tell your brain anything you want. It will not understand as long as you don't show it with action. Here's an example. Let's say you want to become a public speaker, but you think you're not good enough, too shy, or scared other people will judge you when you speak. All these assumptions come from somewhere in your past. In reality, you're thinking you're not good enough to be a public speaker is actually not an accurate assessment, but a tactic of the brain to keep you from the danger. What danger, you might ask? Well, remember, the brain watches your behavior. So what you avoid must be dangerous, because why would you avoid it if it's not dangerous? So the brain tries to protect you from the danger, but it doesn't have arms to hold you back or tentacles, so it uses the 3 tools it has to keep you from running into danger. These 3 tools are emotions, thoughts, and bodily sensations you react to. It actually has no idea what it's saying. It only knows that when it tells you you're not good enough, you react to that thought by avoiding public speaking, avoiding doing your podcast, or avoiding starting your business. You identify with the thoughts, and then you avoid doing the things that the brain thinks are dangerous. And the more you avoid public speaking, the more the brain thinks it's even more dangerous. Because why would you avoid something that is not dangerous? And then the brain will give you more anxiety, depression, and fear to not do public speaking. Because it knows if it gives you those things, you're staying in your bed and you're not going there. You're doing your habitual things. Or you might even buy another self-help book to distract yourself. You still think your brain understands your language and will act on it. Try it. Tell your brain to not give you any thoughts of doubt or emotions of anxiety anymore. It doesn't understand what you're talking about. But you're supporting the loop of thoughts saying we are not good enough by interacting with the already existing thought of not being good enough and adding more detail on it on why you're not good enough. This is giving the brain more ammo to use next time. But in the end, you're reacting to a self-automated, self-created tornado of emotions and thoughts that you identify with. That's why the first thing any therapist should teach you is cognitive diffusion, the differentiation between you and your brain. And then teach the clients to not react to those emotions and thoughts anymore, but accept that they're there and act on their values instead. To show your brain with your behavior what you really care about. This is how you change your patterns. This is how you get out the matrix.
The matrix is a system, Neo. That system is our enemy. But when you're inside, you look around, what do you see? Businessmen, teachers, lawyers, carpenters, the very minds of the people we are trying to save. But until we do, these people are still a part of that system.
Sounds easy, right? Well, to not react to those thoughts and emotions doesn't mean they feel comfortable or they just don't show up anymore. It means to accept that they're there, but instead of engaging with them, to mindfully focus on doing the things that you value. This will show your brain with your behavior that you don't care anymore about the old patterns. Now remember, earlier when I said the sentence, by chasing control, you will always feel more out of control. This is because your brain's language is behavior, and your brain supports you in your behavior. By chasing control, you show your brain with your behavior that you love chasing control. Now, to do more of the thing that you showed the brain that you love, which is chasing control, you have to be out of control to chase control. You have to be out of control to chase control. So to support you, the brain has to give you more feelings of being lost, more feelings of insecurity, more feelings of anxiety, because then you can start doing the things that you love again, which is chasing control. Mind-blowing, isn't it?
Were you listening to me, Neo? Or were you looking at the woman in the red dress?
I was...
Look again.
Let's look at an example to get out of the cycle. In the example of you wanting to do public speaking, maybe thoughts come up that people are going to judge you and you're not ready yet. Those thoughts will seem logical and rational because if the brain wouldn't give you logical and rational thoughts, it couldn't protect you from the dangerous activities because you wouldn't react to them. The brain has saved the thoughts and emotions and bodily sensations you react to, so it knows which ones to use and will also create many combinations for you to avoid the dangerous situations. Your job now is to be okay with the uncomfortable thoughts and anxiety and take mindful steps in the direction of public speaking anyway.
I'm a good storyteller, so I'm gonna give you stories. Why do I put out those analogies, those clips saying the same shit? Because there's only 15 truths. I just have to say them a million different ways to catch you at the right time with the right slang on the right platform at the right moment. I appreciate you too. I appreciate you too.
Maybe you start speaking on social media and have anxiety, but do it anyway. This will show the brain over time that the old software is false because you're not reacting to it anymore. The important part here is that you do those actions mindfully, because even if you're speaking publicly, but you're still spending time in your head talking back to the thoughts and emotions, you're still showing your brain inside your head with your behavior that this is dangerous, and the cycle will just continue. But when you take your brain with you and you don't have the conversations in your head, you will break those patterns because you show the brain that you don't care about the old patterns anymore because you're not reacting to them anymore. You're making them inactive. In this example, the compulsion of the person who public speaks was to avoid the feelings of being embarrassed by distracting themselves with more self-help books. So what do people do when they don't have certainty or they have anxiety? Compulsions to get rid of those feelings, which causes more uncertainty, anxiety, or even depression. So the way out of the matrix is to stop doing the compulsions by being okay with the uncomfortable emotions without being sucked into them, and instead act on your valued actions. That is the new source. Valued actions. Valued actions are things you want to grow and spend your time on that improve your life. No, it's not only work, it's also fun and relaxation. It is a balance of all of it, but it's made of actions. And your garden of life doesn't care about how you feel. It needs water. If you say I have anxiety, I cannot go to the gym or make my podcast or give love to my family or grow your business, and you say that for a month, your garden will die. But the paradox is that by focusing mindfully on your valued actions while accepting all the emotions and thoughts, you build a better relationship with emotions than ever before. You build a space for the emotions. And you build emotional fitness so that anxiety or stress has not the same effect on you anymore. Instead, you will be more productive, more calm, more single-minded, and more successful. Plus, by not reacting anymore to the old stories, you let go of them and see reality for what it is. But by trying to get relief from the emotion right away, by distracting yourself or avoiding doing the valued actions, you are hurting your mental health and the relationships you have with your emotions. You know now how to get out of the matrix. But now, you have some training to do like Neo.
Understand? Then hit me, if you can.
Tip number 1, meditation. Meditation is one of the most important tools you can ever use. This is because emotions like impatience, anxiety, and not feeling like it will come up while you're meditating, and your practice is being okay with it and sitting there anyway, focusing on your breath or your body. In addition, thoughts might come up like, we don't know if we're doing meditation right. We could do something more productive. It's okay if we stop now, we can do it tomorrow again. Or maybe we should watch another video on meditation to figure it out, right? All of those thoughts, the same as the emotions that come up, are patterns of the brain to get you to engage in compulsions in your head or stop meditating. Silent meditation overall is more beneficial than guided meditation. Guided meditation can be a good tool for relaxation of the physical body or relaxation in general, but no meditation is more beneficial than silent meditation. The reason for that is that you're not being passive but proactive. You're sitting down, you're okay with all the emotions and thoughts, and you're mindfully focusing back on your breath or your body. Think of it. This is an exact representation of the practice that you want to do during the day. Have any emotions and thoughts and do the things that you value. That's why meditation is one of the best tools to practice emotional fitness, focus, and the ability to act on your values during your day. There's one big misconception about meditation that I see with a lot of my clients and people who ask me about meditation. Meditation is not about not having thoughts or emotions. It's being okay with all the emotions and thoughts that are there and focus mindfully on your breath or your body. Because by trying to not have these thoughts and emotions, you are still engaging with the thoughts and emotions because you're hating on them. Tip number 2, mindfulness. Mindfulness is less of a practice and more of a way of doing everything. It's a way of living life. It's a way of doing everything. When you make coffee, make coffee. When you walk to your car, walk to your car. Don't spend time in your head having conversations with coworkers or daydreaming. Mindfulness is how we cut out all compulsions inside of our heads. Most people who say they're doing ACT and ERP and say that after a long time they still have the anxiety disorder are cutting out the outside compulsions, but they're still engaging with the compulsions inside of the head. Again, the brain will say, but you don't even know if you're doing mindfulness right. Or it will check out another video on mindfulness to do it right. Mindfulness is simple. Just do what you do well. Just bring your focus back to the things you're doing. Last tip for mindfulness. The same common misconception that goes for meditation goes for mindfulness. Mindfulness is not trying to quiet the mind or stop having any thoughts or emotions. Mindfulness is about being okay with all the thoughts and emotions that are there and focusing mindfully back on the actions you're doing. Running and walking are great ways to practice mindfulness and emotional fitness because even if the brain tries to get you to engage in conversations about your ex or worries or intrusive thoughts, you bring it back to the present moment of you moving your body through the world. Hopefully nature. And since you can set a timer or a distance, you practice emotional fitness because you don't let your brain tell you when to stop running. Unless, of course, you really hurt. You know the difference. You already proactively set your measurements of how long you're going to do this. Then, no matter what the brain gives you to keep you from doing what you're doing, you keep doing it. With this, you're showing your brain that you are the boss. Tip number 4, spend time outside of your head instead of inside of your head. This goes hand in hand with mindfulness. When you have conversations with people, stop trying to pre-plan what you're saying so they like you or don't judge you or think what you're saying is funny. Listen mindfully and share yourself in a way that you value. That brings us to tip number 5. Be yourself in relationships. What does that mean? Share yourself in a way that you value instead of sharing yourself in a way that you think is impressive to others or is being agreeable. Stop stopping yourself from sharing yourself because the brain said you don't want to embarrass yourself. Remember, the brain reacts to your behavior. The more you avoid sharing yourself because you're scared of something, the more you convince the brain that sharing yourself must be dangerous. Because why would you not share yourself freely if it wasn't? And then the brain gives you more warning signals in form of anxiety, insecurity, or thoughts of not being good enough or funny enough. Again, the brain doesn't know what it's saying. It only knows that you're then protecting yourself from the perceived danger. Have any emotions and thoughts and share yourself anyway. Tip number 6. Stop consuming so much on social media and start sharing and creating. Sharing yourself on social media is a great practice to also get better at in-person relationships. The reason for that is that when you share yourself on social media, patterns from the brain come up, like you might not be good enough or they might judge you. By mindfully posting anyway, with any anxiety, you show the brain over time that you don't care about these old patterns anymore. Start sharing yourself on social media in a way that you value. Now, the last and most important tip to integrate all of what I taught you in this video to get out of the matrix of your head and break these old patterns is this. You have to take action. You have to take action and apply these practices. To just watch a video and say that you improved without action is like saying you watched everything on weightlifting, but you never lifted weight. How good are you going to be then at weightlifting? And how buff are you going to be? It's like someone who calls themselves a mental health professional because they have a certificate, but they never change their brain because they don't practice mental health tools in their own life. It's like a tennis coach who never played tennis, but read everything about tennis. How can they understand what you're going through playing tennis when they never held a tennis racket or played a ball? But this is the society we live in. bunch of people regurgitating information or studies and writing interesting and entertaining self-help books, but who don't have a consistent practice in their life. This is the difference between someone recovering and growing and advancing and someone just hiding behind books, certificates, or status.
I don't believe it.
I know what you're trying to do.
I'm trying to free your mind, Neo. But I can only show you the door. You're the one that has to walk through it.
Who do you want to be? Now don't just sit there. Go do the things you value. And remember, do it mindfully, not talking back to the thoughts. Mindfulness is so important. So here's a video on mindfulness that will give you a great understanding on how to do that. Love you guys.